My brother and his wife moved in just for 2 weeks, then refused to pay rent for 6 months and ruined my expensive furniture. So I did this and kicked them out of my house. Am I, male, 35, wrong for wanting to evict my brother, male, 32, and his wife, female, 31, after they've overstayed their welcome and damaged my furniture? Long-time lurker, first-time poster. I'm using my main account because honestly at this point I just don't care if my brother sees this. I'm at my breaking point. So I've always been the responsible one in my family. Even when we were kids, if something went wrong, my parents would be like, "Mark, why didn't you stop your brother?" Even though Drew is only 3 years younger than me, I was basically expected to be the third parent, while my brother got away with everything because he has this annoying charm that makes people forget when he messes up. Anyway, I worked my ass off for 5 years, doing tons of overtime and barely going out to save for a down payment on my house. I finally bought it about 2 years ago. Nothing fancy, just a modest 3-bedroom in a decent neighborhood. But it's mine, you know. I've worked really hard to furnish it exactly how I want. Like I saved up for 6 months to buy this really nice leather sectional, cost me $4,000, and I have this custom oak dining table that I had made by this local craftsman that was almost $3,000. I know that probably sounds materialistic or whatever, but these are literally the first nice things I've ever owned. So about 6 months ago, Drew and his wife Jade show up at my door saying their apartment complex got bought by new owners and everyone was getting kicked out for renovations. They said they just needed a place for 2 weeks while their new apartment gets ready for move-in and promised they wouldn't be any trouble. I had reservations, obviously. Drew has always been financially irresponsible. When we were teenagers, he was constantly borrowing money and never paying it back. He'd get jobs and then quit after like a month because his boss was unfair or whatever. But what was I supposed to do? They're family, and they seemed really desperate, and I had the space. Plus Jade was there being all nice and saying how grateful they were and how they'd help around the house. I laid down some basic ground rules. Keep common areas clean, respect my stuff, obviously, contribute to groceries after the first week, no parties or overnight guests. The first week actually went pretty well. They kept their stuff in the guest room, cleaned up after themselves, and even cooked dinner twice. I was like, cool, this might actually work out for the 2 weeks. Then the 2 weeks came and went. Suddenly there were inspection issues with their new apartment. Then it was, just 2 more weeks, I promise. I suggested they chip in for utilities since it was looking like a longer stay, and they agreed. But they never actually gave me any money. 1 month turned into 2. The excuses kept changing. First it was application delays, then credit check problems, then something with the landlord. Every time I'd ask about their apartment search, Drew would get all defensive and say they were working on it or waiting to hear back. Then they told me they were both between jobs and dealing with money problems. I'll admit I felt bad for them. I mean, I don't mind helping family during tough times. That's what family is for, right? But they've been here for 6 months now. 6 months. And it's not just the time. They've completely taken over my living room. The kitchen is always a mess. Dishes piling up, food left out, crumbs everywhere. I came home from work last week, and there was a pot of something on the stove that had clearly been there for days. But the worst part is the damage to my stuff. There are these mysterious stains on my leather sectional that definitely weren't there before. The hardwood floors have all these scratches near where they put their suitcases. And someone, gee, I wonder who, spilled red wine on my area rug and just left it there. Didn't clean it up or anything. Just covered it with a throw pillow like I wouldn't notice. I tried to talk to them about the sectional stain. I was completely calm about it too. I asked if they knew what happened to the couch, pointing out the big stain. Drew just shrugged and said he didn't notice anything. Jade suggested maybe it was already there and denied doing anything to it. I told them it definitely wasn't there before since I just bought it 6 months ago. Drew got defensive, saying it was just normal wear and tear when people use furniture. When I reminded him how much the sectional cost, Jade rolled her eyes and called me materialistic. Drew said they'd be more careful. I ended up backing down because I hate confrontation and didn't want to make things awkward. But later that night, I overheard Jade on the phone with someone saying I was being ridiculous about furniture and how I care more about things than people. I was furious. I'm not being ridiculous for wanting people to respect my stuff. It's been 6 months. They haven't contributed a single dollar toward rent or utilities. My grocery bill has more than doubled. My furniture is getting ruined. And I found out through Facebook that Drew somehow has money to go to bars with his friends and buy some expensive gaming equipment, but they're too broke to help with bills or find their own place. When I finally confronted Drew about all this, the lack of apartment hunting, the money for bars but not for bills, he exploded. He yelled that we're family and accused me of putting furniture above family, asking if I'd throw my own brother out because of a couch. I don't think I'm putting furniture above family. I think I'm asking for basic respect and honesty after 6 months of supporting 2 grown adults who are taking advantage of me. So, am I wrong for wanting to evict them? They keep saying they have nowhere to go, but I'm starting to think that's just another way to manipulate me. I'm so tired of this. Edit. Holy crap, this blew up overnight. To answer some common questions. 1. Yes, I've talked to my parents about this. They basically said, "You know how Drew is," and told me to be patient with him. They've been enabling his behavior his whole life. 2. No, there's no formal rental agreement. They literally just showed up with suitcases saying it was for 2 weeks. 3. Several people asked about the sectional stain. It looks like some kind of oil or grease that's soaked in. And no, they never offered to clean it or pay for cleaning. 4. For those saying I should have never let them move in, yeah, I get that now. Hindsight is 20/20. Edit 2. To the people asking if I've checked if they're actually looking for apartments, I've tried. Whenever I ask about their search, they get super vague or change the subject. I've offered to help them look online and Drew just gets defensive and says they're handling it. Now for the first update. So, a lot has happened since my last post. First, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who commented and messaged me. Reading through all your advice and support honestly made me feel like I wasn't crazy for being upset about my situation. After reading so many comments saying I needed to have a serious talk with them and document everything, I decided to try one more time with a formal sit-down discussion. I actually spent like 2 hours making a simple budget, showing how much extra I'm spending on utilities and groceries since they moved in, and what would be a reasonable rent contribution. Honestly, way less than what they'd pay for their own place. So last weekend, I sat them down at my dining table and tried to calmly go through everything. I had it all printed out and everything, thinking maybe if they saw the numbers in black and white, they'd understand. Yeah, that didn't go well at all. I started by saying I know they're going through a tough time, but it's been 6 months and I need some help with expenses if they're going to stay longer. I showed them the budget and suggested $600 a month plus helping with groceries, which is honestly ridiculous because a 1-bedroom around here is like $1,500 minimum. Jade immediately started crying about how they were doing their best and how nobody understands how hard things have been for them. Meanwhile, Drew just got this look on his face. I've seen it a million times since we were kids. That "how dare you" look. He started going off about how I've always thought I was better than him and how families should help each other unconditionally and shouldn't keep score. He basically said I've always been the same since we were kids, thinking my stuff is more important than my own brother. It reminded me so much of when we were teenagers, and he borrowed, without asking by the way, my first car that I saved up for working at the grocery store for like a year. He took it to impress some girl, ended up crashing it into a mailbox, and somehow our parents ended up blaming me for not being generous enough with my things. They made me split the repair costs with him, even though I didn't even know he was taking my car. This same pattern has basically continued our entire lives, and I'm just now realizing how messed up it is. Anyway, after our talk, they promised they'd start looking for apartments right away. They suddenly started spending way more time away from the house, and I actually thought, stupidly, that maybe they were apartment hunting. Nope. Here's where things get really messed up. About a week ago, I ran into Jake, a guy who used to work with Drew at the gym. We got to talking and he asked how Drew was doing after everything that happened at work. I was confused and said something about Drew recently losing his job, and Jake got this weird look and was like, "Recently? Dude, he got fired like 8 months ago." 8 months ago. Turns out Drew wasn't laid off or whatever other excuses he gave me. He was fired for repeatedly not showing up and calling in sick after people saw him posting on Instagram at bars the night before. This was before they even moved in with me. So I started doing some digging, which I probably should have done months ago. Called their old apartment building, pretending to be a reference check. And guess what? They weren't kicked out because of new owners or renovations. They were evicted for not paying rent for 3 months straight. The whole story about a new apartment they were waiting for was completely made up. But wait, it gets better. Yesterday I was looking for my phone charger in the guest room while they were out, and I found shopping bags stuffed in the back of the closet. Multiple bags from designer stores with receipts showing Jade has spent like $900 on clothes in the past month alone. $900 while telling me they can't afford to chip in for groceries. And Jake also mentioned he's seen Drew at the casino multiple times recently. The casino, when they supposedly can't afford rent. I mean, I'm not one to judge how others spend their money. Okay, that's not entirely true. I'm definitely judging right now. But the fact that they're blowing hundreds of dollars while living rent-free in my house and ruining my furniture is making me absolutely furious. But the real breaking point happened this past Tuesday. I came home early from work with a migraine. I get them sometimes when I'm stressed. And gee, I wonder why I'm stressed lately. And as soon as I pulled into my driveway, I could hear music coming from inside my house. I walk in and there are like 7 or 8 people I've never seen before, just hanging out in my living room, playing music, drinking beers, sitting on my sectional with glasses and no coasters, and someone was smoking on my back patio. I have a strict no smoking rule. They know this. Drew looked surprised to see me, but quickly does his whole charming thing, introducing me as his brother and the homeowner like it's some kind of joke. I pulled him aside and asked what was going on, and he just completely dismissed me, saying it's just a few friends stopping by and I need to chill out. I pointed out that this completely violates our agreement about guests. Jade came over and started saying I'm being controlling about my precious house. Yeah, it's my house that I paid for. Then I noticed someone had spilled red wine on my sectional, and they'd just thrown a blanket over it to hide it. When I pointed it out, Drew said they'd clean it tomorrow and it would come right out. It didn't. I already tried everything. I also found out the guest bedroom closet door is literally broken off its hinges. Drew claimed it was already loose and they barely touched it, which is complete BS, because I literally had everything inspected when I bought the house. I told Drew the party needed to end right now, and as people were leaving, Jade told her friends I was uptight and kicking them out like I'm the unreasonable one for not wanting strangers destroying my house. After everyone left, Drew just dismissed all the new damages, saying they'd fix it eventually, and I should stop being so uptight. I was done. Completely done. I contacted a lawyer the next day, something many of you suggested, and found out that even though they don't pay rent and there's no lease, they're technically considered tenants under state law because they've been here so long. So I can't just change the locks or throw their stuff out like I honestly wanted to. So here's my plan that I've started implementing. 1, I've served them with a formal written 30-day notice to vacate. Lawyer helped me draft it. 2, I'm documenting everything, taking pictures and videos of all damages for small claims court later. 3, I installed security cameras in the common areas because I've noticed some small valuables going missing. 4, I discovered through our shared Netflix account, that I pay for, of course, that they've been actively looking at apartments, but not in affordable areas like they claimed. They've been looking in neighborhoods that are nicer than where I live. 5, I finally called their parents and mine to explain everything, with evidence of the lies and damages. My parents were skeptical at first. They always take Drew's side. But when I showed them pictures of everything and explained about the job and eviction lies, they were actually shocked. They're coming over this weekend for what I guess is going to be some kind of family intervention. I honestly don't know how to handle the final confrontation that's coming. I'm determined to get my house back, but I'm also anxious about the family fallout. Drew can hold a grudge forever and is really good at turning people against me. But honestly, at this point, I just want them out. Any advice on handling the next few weeks would be really appreciated. I'm trying to stay calm, but I'm also ready to just lose it completely. Edit. Thanks for all the awards and comments. I'm trying to respond to as many as I can. To everyone asking if I've told their parents everything, yes, I finally did. I was hesitant because Drew has always been the favorite, and I thought they wouldn't believe me. But I showed them pictures of the damages, and even had Jake talk to them about the job situation. They were pretty shocked. Apparently, Drew told them he was still employed this whole time, and that I had invited them to live with me long-term to help with my mortgage. The lies this man tells. For those asking about the legal stuff, yes, in my state they are considered month-to-month tenants, even without a formal agreement. and I have to go through proper eviction procedures. My lawyer said the 30-day notice is just the first step, and if they don't leave, we'll have to file with the courts. So yeah, this could get messier before it gets better. Now for the second update. So it's finally over. The nightmare of having my brother and his wife living in my house has come to an end. And holy crap, what a roller coaster the last few weeks have been. First, I just want to thank everyone who commented on my previous posts with advice and support. You guys seriously helped me stay sane through this whole mess and gave me the courage to actually follow through with the eviction. It's been about 2 weeks since everything went down, and I'm only now feeling calm enough to write this all out. Where do I even start? So after my last post, I decided to take the advice of basically everyone and arranged a family meeting with my parents present. I figured having them there would maybe make Drew take this whole thing more seriously. My dad just retired after working at the same company for like 40 years, and he's always been big on responsibility and working hard for what you have. I thought maybe having him there would help Drew see how disappointed everyone was in his behavior. Yeah, right. That was stupid of me. The meeting started out exactly how I expected. Drew came in all smiles and jokes, acting like this was just some silly brotherly squabble that was being blown out of proportion. He walked in making jokes about this being a family intervention, like it was all just some big misunderstanding. But then I pulled out my folder. Yes, I literally made a folder with all the evidence because I am apparently that person now, with pictures of all the damages, screenshots of their luxury apartment searches, and the proof about Drew being fired 8 months ago and getting evicted from their previous apartment. You should have seen his face change so fast. Like, his whole charming act just dropped immediately. My parents were sitting there in complete shock. My mom kept asking Drew if this was true while my dad just sat there getting redder and redder. Drew finally admitted he lost his job before they even moved in with me. But of course, it wasn't his fault. It was because of a manager who had it out for me and how the whole thing was totally unfair. Classic Drew, never taking responsibility for anything. But the best part, Jade, who apparently has zero self-awareness, casually mentioned that they've actually been saving up for a beach vacation this summer. A vacation, while living rent-free in my house and destroying my furniture. She literally said this like it was something to be proud of, that they were being financially responsible by saving money. My money, that they weren't paying me. I thought my dad was going to explode right there. I'm not even exaggerating. My parents tried to play mediator at first, asking if we could work out some kind of payment plan or timeline. But after hearing about the vacation savings and seeing all the damage, especially the new wine stains on my sectional that Drew insisted would come right out, but surprised they didn't, even they couldn't defend Drew anymore. I restated very clearly that they had 30 days to leave as per the formal notice I'd already given them. That's when Drew's whole demeanor changed again. He got this really cold look and told me I would regret being so heartless to my own brother and that he would make the eviction as hard as possible for me. Honestly, that scared me a little bit. Drew has never been violent, but he's always been super vindictive when he doesn't get his way. When we were kids, he once put gum in my hair when I wouldn't let him play my Game Boy. After the meeting, Drew and Jade basically went silent for a few days. At first I thought maybe they were actually planning their move or feeling remorseful. But I later found out from a mutual friend that Drew was actually talking to people about how to legally extend their stay and make the eviction process harder for me. I know I should have handled everything professionally, but I admit I started doing some, let's call them passive-aggressive things to make living with me less comfortable for them. After talking to my lawyer again, I, 1, shut off the Wi-Fi and set up a separate connection just for my home office with a password they didn't have. Drew flipped out about this one. 2, took all the food I had purchased out of the refrigerator and pantry and kept it in a mini fridge in my bedroom with a lock on it. I labeled everything that was mine very clearly. 3, changed the passwords on all the streaming services I pay for, Netflix, Hulu, HBO, etc. 4, took even more pictures and videos documenting all the damages for small claims court. 5, and finally, after things got really heated, got a temporary restraining order against Drew. More on that in a sec. So about 2 weeks into the 30-day notice period, I came home from work and found Drew and Jade lounging on my sectional, watching my Netflix that I had changed the password to, so they must have somehow gotten the new one. I calmly reminded them They had about 2 weeks left on their notice to vacate and asked how their apartment search was going. Drew literally just ignored me completely and turned up the volume on the TV. I stood in front of the TV, probably not my most mature moment, but I was so done at this point, and asked directly about their progress finding a new place. Jade said they'd been looking non-stop, but just couldn't find anything in their price range. I mentioned I knew they'd only been looking at luxury apartments, way beyond what they could afford. I had seen their searches on their open laptop one day. Drew jumped up off the couch and got right in my face, screaming about how I was spying on them. I calmly explained I just happened to see their open laptop searches when I was cleaning up the living room. And then he shoved me, like physically pushed me backwards hard enough that I stumbled and knocked over a side table. I told him if he touched me again, I would call the police immediately. That's when Jade pulled out her phone and started recording me, saying they needed evidence of harassment in case I tried to illegally evict them. I just walked away to de-escalate the situation, and honestly, because I was afraid I might actually punch him if I stayed there any longer. The next day, I called my lawyer about the physical confrontation, and she advised filing for a temporary restraining order given the escalation to physical aggression. The judge granted it, which basically meant Drew had to stay a certain distance from me, in my own house. It was weird and awkward, but at least he couldn't get in my face again. Finally, eviction day arrived. I took the day off work and had a sheriff deputy present, as advised by my lawyer, thank God. Drew and Jade acted completely shocked that I actually went through with it. Like, what did they think the formal notice and restraining order were? Just suggestions. Jade immediately called my parents, crying about being thrown out on the street. My parents actually came over, but not to defend them. They came to support me. I think after seeing all the evidence and Drew's behavior at the family meeting, they finally understood what I'd been dealing with. Drew tried saying they needed at least another week, but the sheriff explained very clearly that they'd had legal notice and had to leave today. While they were packing, I discovered even more damages they had tried to hide. Cigarette burns on the mattress in the guest room, again, no smoking rule that they knew about, and some of my electronics were mysteriously broken. Drew was swearing and yelling the whole time, threatening to sue me for illegal eviction and emotional distress. The sheriff had to warn him multiple times about his behavior. They only took essential belongings that day, and I arranged for them to come back with a moving truck within 48 hours for the rest of their stuff. My parents stayed to witness everything because Drew tried to take some things that were definitely mine, including a TV from my bedroom. The second they drove away, I changed all the locks. I cannot even describe the relief I felt. The aftermath. Drew and Jade moved in with her parents. Temporarily, apparently her dad has given them a strict timeline to find their own place. I took them to small claims court for $3,200 in damages and won, though collecting that money is going to be challenging. My parents actually apologized to me for not believing how bad the situation was at first, and for basically enabling Drew's behavior our whole lives. My homeowner's insurance covered some of the damages, but not all, because of some BS about intentional damage by residence exclusions. Drew has actually started some financial counseling program at our parents' insistence and has made 2 small payments toward what he owes me. Jade apparently filed for separation last week, blaming financial stress from the eviction. For their relationship problems. Yeah, sure, blame me for your failing marriage. Drew and I barely speak now, though my mom is trying to rebuild the family bond or whatever. I'm willing to have a relationship with him eventually, but only if there are very clear boundaries and he actually takes responsibility for once in his life. Oh, and I replaced my ruined sectional with an even nicer one, installed a comprehensive home security system, and have a new personal rule. Family is welcome, but respect is required. I honestly don't think I would have had the courage to stand up for myself without all your comments and support. So thank you, Reddit. Seriously, there are still some awkward family gatherings ahead, but I no longer feel guilty for protecting my home and my mental health. Edit. Since so many people are asking, yes, I did file a police report about the physical altercation. The restraining order required it. No charges were filed though, since it was just a shove, according to the officer I spoke with. A lot of people are asking why I didn't just change the locks sooner. In my state, that would have been an illegal eviction, and I could have faced serious legal consequences. Trust me, I wanted to, but had to do everything by the book. For those asking about my parents' reaction, They were genuinely shocked at how bad things had gotten. My dad actually told Drew he was deeply disappointed in him, which might not sound like much, but coming from my stoic father who rarely expresses emotions, it was basically like being disowned. They're still trying to help Drew, but at least they're not making excuses for him anymore.